Bit later than I usually do, but I was up very early today. But various things, just getting around to doing this right now. Took a couple of days off on vacation, but I just wanted to share something with you that the Lord reminded me of this morning in my reading. It wasn't even the passage that I was reading specifically, but I feel like it spoke so much to where so many of us are right now between COVID-19, between the riots, the racial tension, all of the disagreement among people about what's behind everything, what to do about everything, all of that stuff. There's so much in people's hearts right now about the future by way of fear and concern and anxiety. So much about finances, about fear and anxiety. So much about safety, all kinds of things. And as I was reading today, I came across a note that I had made regarding a passage in Matthew chapter 13 specifically. And I want to just read to you a very, very famous passage. And this is Jesus who is explaining the parable of the sower. So in verse 18, he says, "Now you're ready to listen to the revelation of the parable of the sower and his seeds. The seed that fell on the beaten path," and by the way, the seed itself, the seed is the word. He tells us that earlier in the passage. The seed is the word of God. So the word of God that fell on the beaten path, that scenario represents the heart of one who hears the message of the kingdom realm, but doesn't understand it. The adversary then comes and snatches away what was sown into his heart. So I won't take off on this very tempting rabbit trail, so to speak. I've preached on it many times, but that one verse alone, verse 19, reveals how extremely important it is that you actually study the Word of God until you understand what it is you're reading. If you read but don't understand, the enemy can come along and take away the seed of the Word that God's trying to deposit into your life. In verse 20, the seed sown on gravel represents the person who gladly hears the kingdom message, but his experience remains shallow. Shortly after he hears it, troubles and persecutions come because of the kingdom message he received. Then he quickly falls away, for the truth didn't sink deeply into his heart. And I will just tell you that if you receive the word of God and take it seriously in your life, there will very quickly come against you troubles and persecutions, specifically in light of the word that you've received. The enemy will make sure that you face some situations where it is very hard to obey the word, line up to the word, stand on the word. Then you get to verse 22. The seed sown among weeds, or the word of God that falls among weeds, that represents a person who receives the message, but all of life's busy distractions, worry, anxiety, his divided heart, his ambition for wealth, and there's a lot of things that could go in this. The original language right there is full of possibilities for interpretation. But here's the upshot. It results in suffocating the kingdom message and prevents him from bearing spiritual fruit. And I want to come back to that verse in a second. And for the seed that fell on good, rich soil, it represents the hearts of people who hear and fully embrace the message of heaven's kingdom realm. Their lives bear good fruit. Some yield a harvest of 30, 60, even 100 times as much as was sown. But in verse 22, this is the one that really, really stood out to me. The literal translation is this, that people who receive the word, and in receiving it, they receive it in a place where there is worry, where there is stress, where there is all the cares of life. He says when that happens, here's what the literal translation is: the word becomes unfruitful. So here's the point. The word of God can be fruitful in your life at one season. And you may think, okay, I've got this now. This I've learned. This I'm standing on. This I'm aligning my life to. This is going to be my strength and my stronghold forever. But please understand this. Stress and worry and fear and cares and keeping your eye on what I got to do to make sure I got enough money and all that kind of stuff, Jesus says that causes you to become unfruitful. The word stops working in your life. It steals your fruit. And the word picture the Lord gave me about this years ago was that stress and worry and fear are like marauders riding in from a neighboring enemy's, camp. They ride in and they steal the fruit of the word out of my life. They steal the food out of my soul. And all the work that I had invested in planting the word and taking care of the word and letting it grow up in me, it can be stolen away just like that through worry and through stress. And Jesus put it like this. He said, we live from every word that comes out of the mouth of God. In other words, the word of God at work in your life, bearing fruit in your life, that fruit is life itself. It causes life to happen in you. It makes your spirit come alive. It makes your body function better. It gives life to relationships. It gives life to your mind where you can understand things better. It just brings life. So what happens if the word becomes unfruitful? If the word is stolen out of your life, well, then life isn't happening. And what is the absence of life? It's death. In other words, worry and cares and concerns and anxiety and fears and all of those kinds of things, left untended in our lives, they introduce death. It's just that simple. And you may say, I overcame worry and anxiety. I'm thinking right now of a friend, somebody I really cared about a lot, who overcame years of deep anxiety and discouragement, and even in her case, clinical depression, and did it through the Word of God. And yet later on then gave way to anxiety and fear and listening to the voice of the enemy, accusing people around her and so forth. And all of that was stolen from her, all that she had worked so hard. And I've had the same experience in my own life. And I just want to really urge you today, be in the Word, but then guard the Word once it comes in. And when you realize that stress and anxiety and fear and anger and all that stuff that this kinds of seasons can cause to rise up in you, when you see it happening, take quick actions to take every thought captive. Every thought captive. Don't let those thoughts, those attitudes, those emotions, don't let them rob the beautiful fruit of the life-giving Word of God from your life. Don't let it happen. You push into the Word and let the life of God flow into your veins, okay? Love you so much. Roxanne, good to see you on this morning. Hope you're having a great day. And for all of you who will be seeing this through the day, be blessed and can't wait to see you again. Love